Well, hello, Leonie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi there, Erika. I'm so excited to be here, so thank you.
Yes, I'm excited to dive into your content and your journey here on YouTube. Why don't we get started with you sharing with our viewers and listeners what inspired you to get onto YouTube and when exactly that was?
Well, it's a little bit of a funny story because I was a magazine editor for 20 years here in New Zealand and edited some of New Zealand's top-selling women's lifestyle magazines. And I also had two young boys and just realised that I wasn't getting a lot of time to see them and felt like everything was being compromised, you know, that classic sort of mum juggle. And I saw what was happening in the States in terms of YouTube and thought, okay, I'll look and find some, you know, fashion and beauty and lifestyle YouTubers that I can relate to. So at the time I was probably late 40s, 40, 45, 46, somewhere around there. And I actually couldn't find too many, which was kind of surprising to me. And then I thought, well, why don't I do that? So I originally started with a blog thinking that that was sort of the way forward. And certainly in New Zealand 10 years ago, there were no blogs and no one was doing it. So I'm kind of considered the OG of blogging in New Zealand because I was one of the first to actually start blogging. And with my blog, I had video content. But so I kind of didn't understand YouTube back then. I sort of thought that it was just a platform to house my videos that I could showcase on my blog. And then it was sort of only a few years later that I realized, hang on, YouTube is its own platform. And I decided to, leave my full-time job. And it was interesting. My boys at that stage were sort of 10 and 8, I think, and they were heavily into YouTube. And so I sort of started watching YouTube and enjoying it as its own platform. And then I said some sort of throwaway comment to my eldest son, and I just said, I think I might do YouTube. And I remember him sort of saying to me, oh, Mum, you can't do it. You're way too old. You can't do it. No. And I said, no, I think I want to do it. I want to get a silver play button. And then both of my boys said, you'll never do that. That will never happen. And so that was almost the best thing they could have said for me because it was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah, definitely.
And at that point in time, it did seem like a complete pipe dream, but I do love a challenge. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I was so out of my comfort zone and so nervous to sort of put myself out there in this sort of public capacity, because as a magazine editor, you're very much behind the scenes. And so to do this and in a culture like New Zealand, which is, we've got this thing over here called sort of tall poppy syndrome, which is whenever anyone's starting to succeed at something, you want to sort of cut them down just to keep them humble. So I was constantly aware of, you know, I was going to get sort of that negativity and people wanting to cut me down because they'd think that I was a bit perhaps too full of myself if I was creating videos and talking to a camera. And so in the early days, it was a lot.
Yeah. So how long ago was that when you...
I sort of went all in about 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had your blog before that, so you kind of were tiptoeing in the content creation world.
Yes, I was. Very much so.
And so do you still do your blog now, or once you did YouTube, you kind of stopped with the blog?
Yeah, once I really went in on YouTube, I stopped with the blog. It's still there, and I have plans for it this year because I do see that there's sort of a real renaissance with blogs, and I do see the value in blogs, and I want to blog a little bit more. It's just time generally, and I think I enjoy YouTube far more than I enjoy blogging, so that's where I sort of tend to spend my time.
Yeah. And so since you were a magazine editor, I'm assuming fashion magazine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Women's lifestyle and fashion.
Yeah. So then you went onto YouTube knowing that already what you wanted to do, which was fashion?
Well, not really, surprisingly, because at the time there was quite a famous YouTuber here in New Zealand called Shan XO is her YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I'd met Shannon a couple of times, and I kind of thought maybe I should look at the beauty space because there wasn't anyone kind of doing, well, there was no one that I could find kind of doing what Shannon was doing, but for mature skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of dipped my toe in that, but I'm not great with makeup. So I sort of quickly realized
You're like, that's not my thing.
that's kind of not my thing.
Mhm.
I love it, but it's just not my forte. And then I sort of, I suppose I was just a bit lost because I didn't really know what to sort of focus on. So I did a little bit of minimalism because at that point in my life, I was really interested in downsizing, and my kids were little and I wanted to declutter and just
Yeah.
have less and create some order in my chaotic life. So I sort of dipped my toe in minimalism. And because fashion has always been my passion and it is where my career started,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of then started to do fashion content. And interestingly, I had a video go viral on minimalism, and at a similar time, one of my fashion videos kind of started to take off. So I was a little bit like,
Two different.
I didn't know what to do, you know. I sort of thought, well, do I do both? And then that sort of didn't make sense to me to have a channel that was, you know, had such different audiences. And then I just thought, you know, if I'm going to treat this as a long-term thing, it's got to be something that's less than sort of a hobby, which,
Mm-hmm.
or just a little sort of new thing that I was interested in, which was minimalism, and more of a long-standing passion, which for me has always been fashion.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting. So you now do the fashion. At what point did your channel take off, or was there a specific video or kind of a tipping point?
There was, and I can't remember exactly when that was, but it was probably about 5 years ago. And I remember distinctly I was on a girls' weekend away out of town, and I kept getting these YouTube messages and notifications popping up on my phone.
Mm.
And I'd always had this running joke with my girlfriends that I think I'm going viral. I used to say, I think I'm going viral. I think, hang on, this could be my opportunity to go viral. It was sort of this standing joke.
Yeah.
And I kept getting all these notifications on my phone. And then one of the girls sort of said to me, oh, what's that about? And I said, I actually think I'm going viral. And they just thought that I was joking, my
Yeah.
usual, I'm going viral, I'm going
Yeah.
viral.
Yeah.
But I said, I actually think it's happening. I don't know what's happening. And I kind of didn't understand my analytics. I didn't really use the app on my phone much, so I couldn't kind of work out what was going on until I actually got home from that weekend. And then I realized that, yeah, one of my videos had a ton of views and a ton of comments. And it was like, oh, wow, how did that happen?
Oh, wow. How many views did it get?
Oh, I think it's, I'm terrible with kind of looking back, but I think it's probably sitting now at close to 1 million views. Which is not viral for a lot of people, but, you know, for me it certainly is.
Yeah, especially, I mean, it's a lot of views, and especially if it's
It was new and it was early days.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, I have a question for you as being somebody who is in New Zealand. I know that, the seasons are opposite, right? From here, pretty much everywhere else in the world. And so fashion is very seasonal. And so how do you approach that? Do you go with the seasons that you're currently in, or do you go with the seasons that the rest of the world is in?
It's interesting. I actually get asked that question quite a bit, and you would think that it would potentially be difficult because I focus on what's happening in North America. And the reason that I do that is because that's where most of my audience is.
Okay.
And
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not hard for me because working in fashion magazines, you always work in advance. You never ever, like we would never put out a magazine that was current fashion. And certainly I worked on a magazine here in New Zealand called Fashion Quarterly, which was a quarterly seasonal magazine. So we would work a year in advance. So I've never worked in a fashion realm where I've been talking about what's currently in now. So for me, it's not difficult and it does make sense. But it's interesting. Just recently, I've noticed I must be getting some more viewers from New Zealand and Australia because I'm getting some negative comments about, hey, it's spring here. I thought you were in New Zealand, or I thought you were in Australia. Why are you talking about fall? Or so it's only recent, but there's clearly some confusion there with the seasons. But for me, I always just kind of say, look, it makes sense for me to create content for my biggest audience. That just makes sense. And it's not difficult because it's sort of what I've always done in my career. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I was like, I guess it depends on who's watching your channel. Because if you have a lot of people in Australia and New Zealand watch it, then you would want to cater to them. But it sounds as if that's not really the case.
No, it's not the case at all. I don't know what I'll do if I do get more Australian and New Zealand viewers. I suspect I won't, though, because I think, sort of working out of season just won't be relevant to them. The only thing for me sometimes is that, I try and wear something that might be seasonally appropriate. So it doesn't sort of make sense if I'm wearing a summery tank top, but I'm talking about winter trends.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's been a little problematic. It might be, a really hot sort of sweltering summer's day here, and I think, oh, okay, I'll wear my turtleneck today because it's appropriate.
Yeah, that's true too. It kind of feels weird. And the same thing with like, what about, well, I know a lot of your videos are really about talking about trends and things like that, but what about actually getting the clothes? So are you having to order internationally a lot? Because obviously what's there locally is not reflective of what's going on.
Exactly. And that is my biggest challenge, actually. And I think that's, one of the reasons why I focus on trends quite a lot, because I don't, I'm not showcasing as many clothes. And I still like minimalism, so I'm not into overconsumption. So that kind of sits okay, but it's really tricky. There's lots of content I would love to create, but I'm not on the ground there to do that. I'd love to be doing some regular try-ons in different stores and featuring new season, best buys and that sort of content. But it's just something that I can't do. And also living in New Zealand, even if I buy online internationally, chances are it's sold out by the time it's arrived here.
True.
So it quickly becomes so irrelevant.
That's tough. Yeah.
So there are some real challenges that I face. And then the tricky thing is, like you mentioning trends, I think one of the trickiest things I find on YouTube is that I tend to create content that I know is going to be successful, I suppose, because this is my full-time job. And those videos tend to be the most successful. So I end up, I'm sure like a lot of content creators, you end up almost pushing yourself into a bit of a corner because you're creating where there's a need and where there's that demand, as opposed to what you would personally really like to create sometimes, which I find that quite hard sometimes as well.
That is, I think that's the everlasting issue with all YouTubers. It's kind of like it's almost as if but it's not so much the algorithm. It's kind of because the algorithm follows the audience, right? That's like the number one thing. And people always say, oh, I need to understand the algorithm. And it's like, well, the reality is that the algorithm is following what the audience is doing. So really, ultimately, what you're really saying is I need to like understand my audience. But it's like, so you think, oh, your algorithm only pushes these videos out, but then they're doing that because that's the videos that your audience is watching. And because I work with creators, as I work, with a lot of YouTubers, and it's always like, oh, I know this video is not going to do well, but I want to do this video. And sometimes I always say, I was like, you know what, like, do it anyways, because sometimes it's like you have different purposes for different videos. And if you're constantly, like you said, sometimes you will end up getting pigeonholed, or it's even worse, like you burn out from the same kind of content. So you have to experiment or try something different, or knowing that maybe you won't be getting as many views, but you're doing something a little bit different because you just need to creatively,
And it's such good advice and such a good point. And in fact, I think this year, one of my main sort of priorities in terms of my YouTube channel is doing exactly that. Just trying to do some new content without expecting that it's actually going to get the same amount of views. But I don't know whether it's an ego thing or what. I think that gets quite hard because you're used to getting a certain amount of views.
Yeah.
And then when you don't, it's hard not to sort of immediately think, oh, no one likes this. This is what I liked creating, but no one else likes it. So, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So it is a bit tricky. I think I just need to get over myself and start creating some content that I would particularly like to watch myself. That's how it started for me. So
Yeah. Are there what is that content for you that you feel as if doesn't necessarily do well, but you would like to try on your channel?
well, even things like favorites videos. Like I love sharing, new products that I've discovered, or new. It might be a fashion item, or like an amazing beauty product that I'm just thinking is making a difference to my skin, and yeah, and those videos tend to take a while to create because there's lots of B-roll content, and so there's quite a bit of time and effort that goes into them. And then you sort of get like a tenth of the views. But I mean, sort of favorites videos. I'd also love to do more try-on videos as well, but then I'm stuck in terms of not
Yeah.
being in the same season, which is tricky. But I'm heading over to the US in a couple of weeks' time, and so I'm over there for 3 weeks. So my mission is to create a little bit of content that's more relevant to the season, and do some
Oh, yeah.
try-ons, and do some things that I would like to do, but are often just too challenging for me, just geographically.
Yeah. So you're gonna what, hit the malls or just do a lot of online shopping and send it to your destination?
I think I'm just going to hit the malls. I'm doing a little bit of a road trip with my youngest son, so yeah, I think I'll sort of hit the malls. And I was in LA just over Christmas and that was a classic example. Actually, I did a whole lot of thrift shopping and
Oh.
absolutely loved it, and created a thrifting video, which I think is about 20,000 views,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. And I loved creating that video, but the views are still not
Yeah.
off
What?
the charts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ah.
but I loved creating that. I loved everything about it, from filming it to actually, yeah, editing it, everything. So when I create that, and then I sort of think, oh, I loved doing that, but not many other people
Nobody else
really
did.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that US trip should yeah, give you a lot of content, I would think. Like if you're
I
strategic
hope
about
so.
So yeah.
But then my thinking was, well, do I create long form content with that, or is that more of shorts? Do I create a whole lot of shorts out of that sort of mall try on stuff? I don't
I
know.
would do the long form.
Yeah.
Because then
Okay.
you'll be able to benefit for more with more like affiliate sales and things like that too.
Yeah, that's a good point,
You know,
actually.
yeah,
Good
especially if it's
thinking.
something that you can't do that
Can't,
often.
yeah, exactly. I can't.
So
So,
like I would definitely do more long form.
okay, yeah. Well, my plan is to very much create some content when I'm over there, because for me it's just such a novelty. And certainly when I was in the States in December, it was just brilliant for me to hit the malls and rummage through the racks and actually hands-on see things, as opposed to what I normally have to do, which is just sort of online shopping and looking, basically window shopping.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and nice to sort of feel and try things on and see what the quality's like in Zara at the moment, and
Mhm.
just to see on the ground what's happening.
Yeah, I would imagine that that's a huge difference. So, all right, going back to your channel, then, what videos are the ones that get you the most excited to create, or that you find perform the best on your channel?
Definitely trend focused videos.
Mm,
And what my channel is very accessible, and that's the other sort of dilemma that I have, in that I would like to sort of personally do more trying on, and I do that a little bit when I'm trying to sort of showcase a point, whether it's talking about proportions in dressing or whatever it may
mhm.
be. But I also don't like to, I like to be as inclusive as possible. And I know that everyone's got different body shapes and body types. And, I'm almost 6 foot tall, and I probably just try and be more inclusive than that. So what I like to do, and what tends to work best on my channel, is really accessible fashion. My little tagline to my channel is "Your shortcut to style," and
Mhm.
I've always felt that there's almost an elitist take to fashion. It's almost like you're in the fashion club or you're not, and I don't like that. And I like the idea of fashion should be accessible to everyone, and so I try and create content that is accessible, and talk about fashion and trends in a very wearable, real way. I
Mhm.
mean, we can learn a lot from the runways, but translating that into everyday is, I think, the key. And if I can sort of share that, And interestingly, that sort of wearable content is what works best for me as well. So that's obviously what my audience likes too.
Yeah. I would imagine it's, relatable. That's a big thing on YouTube too. I feel like everybody wants to be relatable, and that's why people watch it, because you were an editor at fashion magazines. If they want a glossy Vogue like thing, they know where to go for that, right? But for years, this like accessibility to just a real person and what they wear was just never really available, because fashion was all done through fashion magazines.
Exactly. And while I think that has a place, and I certainly enjoyed that, it's a very much, it's all airbrushed, and it's the fantasy, which is fabulous, and I love that about fashion, but it doesn't work in real life. And it also, it often doesn't make you feel good. A little bit like scrolling Instagram and you see all these amazing images, and you might be a mum at home struggling with, your kids and working, and life's busy, and you're pulled in 10 different directions. And also, if you've had kids, you may have lost your fashion mojo and your body's changed. And so I suppose the glossy magazines are great, but they are just a dream. And sometimes pulling it right back and making it real makes far more sense to me. And I think I'm a true believer that fashion does and has the power to make you feel great.
Yeah.
And I just, I've done quite a bit of styling of real women as well, and I absolutely love that. And you can see when someone looks at themselves in the mirror, when you've put something on them that they perhaps weren't wanting to try. And I've taken styling groups where women have said to me, oh, I can't wear that. I love the jeans that you're wearing, but I can't wear those because I'm too old for that. And then I'll say to them, well, how old are you? And, they're often 5 years younger than me. And I'll say, well, you can wear anything you want to, throw out the rule book. And, I think we sort of have these predetermined ideas of what we should wear according to, where we're at in life and who we are and how we were raised. And, but the real sort of fashion girls that you see out on the street, or the Karen Britchicks of the world, they're all just playing with fashion. They're just playing dress-ups and having fun. It's not like they have the rule book that the rest of us don't have. So I suppose I sort of like to just try as much as I can to make fashion accessible. And I do get some negative comments. I'll get people saying, this girl knows nothing about fashion. What's she talking about? And I think what they're expecting is sort of a high-end take on it. But I'd rather pull that back and actually go, okay, these are the trends, but this is how real people can wear them and feel great, which is the key.
Yeah, not have to spend like a ton of money or something.
And that's the other thing as well, that, I don't like overconsumption. I don't like having to buy into all that pressure of having to buy into all of the trends. So I sort of always like to talk to that as well, how we can still appreciate fashion and enjoy trends, but not spend a fortune, and not really go out of our comfort zone to still look and feel great, and just to try something new that makes us feel good.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any of these questions or concerns about your YouTube channel? Did I pick the right niche? Should I be focusing on this audience for my channel? What kind of videos should I create that will attract a really good, loyal audience? Why am I growing so slow? I'm so overwhelmed with YouTube, and I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing to do to grow. Let me tell you, if you are thinking any of these things, you are not alone. Those are some of the questions I get most often as a YouTube strategist and coach for the last 7 years, and that is why I created my all-new $39 audience attraction system. The audience attraction system is based off of my experience coaching hundreds of YouTubers, many of which have grown tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of subscribers and attracted millions of views. I took the system that I use with my coaching clients and packaged it into the audience attraction system so that you now have access to this incredible action plan at a crazy low, affordable cost of $39. I want to give you the system you need to skyrocket your YouTube channel and start seeing results ASAP. Whether you're ready to blow up and scale the YouTube channel you already have, or you're just getting started but want to start seeing YouTube growth yesterday, the audience attraction system is the perfect fit for you. You can learn more about it by going to erikaviera.net/YAAS. Again, that is erikaviera.net/YAAS. So we're here at the second half of the interview, and this is where I ask you the same questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show. Kind of a little bit of a rapid fire, but you can take your time answering the question. But the first question is, I think maybe we touched on some of them, unless there's something else, but what would you say is your number one struggle with YouTube?
Just time, I suppose. It takes longer than most people would imagine to create a video. So I would like to create double the amount of videos that I'm currently creating, but it's just time. And I'm a single mum, so trying to run a household and look after my kids, and that's probably the biggest struggle, time. And I'm getting old, and I think I'm probably getting a little bit lazy. I like sleeping in a little bit in the mornings, and I mean, I'm still happy to grind, but I think that's changed slightly. I like to spend time exercising and catching up with my friends and trying to create or find that balance. But it's just time.
That balance is so important, though, as a creative too, because if you are depleted, I do feel as if your content suffers.
Yeah, I've definitely found that in the past. I would completely agree with that, where I've just been so focused and it's taken over everything. And my content has suffered. I've suffered. My family suffered. I'm more conscious now than ever that I sort of do about 5 videos a month, sometimes 6, but that's pretty much my limit, basically.
Yeah. What, if you were to start over right now, what, if anything, would you do differently?
Oh, I think I would go all in on YouTube and not focus on blogging or, if I'd really gone all in on YouTube from the get-go, I would have, I'm sure, a whole lot more subscribers and be making a whole lot more money.
Yeah.
So, if I started over differently, that's what I do. And in fact, I've actually just started a new channel. And I've got 60 subscribers. So I'm very much appreciating, how hard it is to start from scratch again. But I'd just go all in on YouTube.
What's that other channel?
It's called Studio 2, and I constantly get asked questions about YouTube from friends and family, and how do you make money on YouTube, and do you do your own filming, and how do you do this? And I thought, actually, I'm just going to start a channel that perhaps resonates with women or older women about YouTube. I mean, obviously there are so many channels like that out there. I'm not reinventing the wheel or doing anything new, but I suppose it's just my take on it and my personal journey and experience. So I've got 60 subscribers.
Okay.
Which I'm thrilled about.
Yeah, it's great. You got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
What is your favorite video that you've created on your channel?
Oh gosh, what is my favorite video? I think it might be, I did a video on how to color your hair at home, and I think it's got about 1 million views or just over 1 million views. And it's a strange one to be my favorite, but even when I was working in, as the editor of New Zealand's top-selling fashion magazine, I still liked coloring my own hair. And I used to get so much grief from friends about that, because I could have, and I did sometimes go to any of the top salons and, was gifted, hair treatments and colors and whatever, but I still liked doing my own color. And so I did create a video on how to color your hair at home, and it went crazy. So I think in some respects it was almost validating me that I'm not the only one that is, happy to color their hair at home,
Yeah.
Like I wake up one morning, I've got a few grays, and I can't wait a couple of days for an appointment. I'm impatient. I just want it done.
Yeah. So you still color your hair at home?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, there you walk the walk,
I walk the walk. I go once a year to the salon and get it sort of cut and colored properly, but I'm fairly boring with my hair, but I know what works for me and suits my lifestyle, so I sort of just stick with what works.
Yeah, I love that. What is your number one tip for preserving your mental health as a creator?
I think it's trying to manage your own expectations and that's been really obvious lately with starting a new channel that, I've got a certain level of success on the Style Insider, but then I started this new channel and thought, yes, I'll be able to just replicate what I've done, and that's going to be easy. And it's been the opposite. So I think it's like anything, it's managing your expectations, and also not comparing yourself to others. I think, that cliched comparison is the thief of joy. Just resonates so strongly with me in this industry, that everyone's going to do things better and differently and bigger and bolder and grander and have a more luxurious house or whatever it may be. But I think, comparing yourself to others constantly will always make you feel disappointed.
It's hard not to do on YouTube, though.
Oh, it's so hard.
But it's number one. I tell people, I'm like, you can't. It'll just cripple you.
Yeah, and I think it's taken me a while to sort of get my head around that. And then I think probably I've just turned 56, so being older has made it easier for me in some respects to not compare, because, what point is there for me to compare myself to a 30-year-old or a 20-something-year-old? That's just ridiculous. So in some respects, that's a nice reminder not to do that. But yeah, it's it isn't easy. Or you'll see that someone's blown up, or a video that they've done that you may have done a month earlier, theirs is blown up and yours hasn't.
Yeah.
But what?
Why didn't mine? I know.
What about mine?
Yeah. I think every single YouTuber has those thoughts.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. Any video you created on your channel that you're like really excited about, but then it just kind of flopped?
Oh gosh. Is there any video that... There have been plenty that have flopped, like probably too many to name, to be honest. Really, there's, like, if I go right back to the early days, there were plenty, and some that I would, still look at now, and occasionally I'll go back and I'll think, wow, that was actually a good video, but it flopped. I probably should take some of those off, but they're there.
Why not? Why take them off? You never know. Sometimes with YouTube too, sometimes videos will randomly take off later on.
Yeah, I have noticed that actually. Something, and certainly during COVID, there were some videos, or I probably shouldn't use that word. There are some videos that randomly took off. And in fact, my How to Dye Your Hair at Home video started to go off during that time, which makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But interestingly, I doubled down and created another How to Colour Your Hair at Home. Didn't do anywhere near as good. And it was a better video than the first attempt.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yep.
Of course it was. Oh my gosh. What is the biggest opportunity you got as a result of being a YouTube creator?
Oh, what is the biggest opportunity? Not many, to be honest. Yeah. Like I think because I'm, living down here in New Zealand, I definitely haven't been flown anywhere, or and I think, I don't know, that may be different if I lived in the States, but I certainly got some amazing perks when I worked as a magazine editor, being flown to Europe and all sorts of things. So maybe the yardstick is too high there.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, you were used to some pretty cool stuff, huh?
Yeah, I was. So nothing apart from that sense of community, and I think that's not a nothing. I shouldn't sort of downplay that, because I've had some viewers or followers that have been with me from the really early days, and I've never met them, but I actually feel like I know them, and they'll sort of slide into my DMs on Instagram or chat about things. And so probably that sense of community, which I've just never had on any other social media platform, that's for sure, or even in magazines, with magazines being a one-way street. You communicate a whole lot of stuff and dump it out there on the streets to be sold, whereas, YouTube and social media is very much a two-way thing. So, that's probably the biggest thing I've got out of it. I'd love to be flown, and I see other YouTubers, getting all these amazing trips and opportunities, but down here in little old New Zealand, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, because if they want to fly you anywhere, it's a long flight.
It's a long way.
Yeah, how long does it take you to get to the States? You said you were just there.
Yeah, I was in LA. It was not too bad. It was 16 hours, a 16-hour flight, and then I'm going to Boston in 2 weeks' time, and that's a 30-hour trip. So yeah,
30.
so it's just
Yeah,
trying
because
to
LA is closer, or
yeah
yeah.
yeah it is. So
Oh,
so yeah, we're a long way away down here, that's for sure.
yeah, definitely. Um, what what would you say has kept you going over the last few years as a YouTube creator?
I think what's kept me going, and this sounds, I don't like how it sort of sounds, I suppose, but the financial side of it has kept me going. In that,
Mm-hmm.
it's the platform that I support my family on YouTube. I put a roof over our head, and I know that, and that's probably one of the reasons I like to double down on the amount of videos that I make, because
Yeah.
potentially my income would be doubled. But um, yeah, I suppose once my channel hit 100,000 subs, I started getting lots of opportunities for sponsorship,
Mhm.
and my AdSense and affiliate links were starting to take off. So yeah, that's probably, been the easiest thing to keep me going, where I see that there is a real return on my time investment.
Yeah, definitely. Um, what is your superpower that you think has led to your success on YouTube?
I think my impatience. I'm really an impatient person, and I think being impatient, and that crossed with liking a challenge, and my sons saying that I couldn't do it or thinking that I couldn't do it. So it was just, I think the two of those things. I'm impatient to the point where I'll film a video, and if it's, nothing will ever be perfect for me. I'm never happy with the final result of any video. So I kind of realize that and just still upload it and get it out there, because that impatient side of me takes over.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being impatient and also enjoying a challenge and being motivated to, I want that silver play button. And when it came, it was almost a bit of a non-event, because it was like, okay, that's
Okay.
it.
And I take some pictures, post them on Instagram. Like, okay.
Yeah, that was it. In fact, my son's friends would come over and see. They wanted to know if they could
Touch it.
take a look at it,
Mhm.
touch it, take a look at it. And I'd say, yeah, here it is. You can do an unboxing if you like. And they'd be like unwrapping it. And so I got so much pleasure out of
Yeah.
seeing them do that. But yeah, superpower, probably being impatient. So it meant that I just uploaded content without angsting over it too much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And liking a challenge, which made me keep going in the early days.
Sounds like that's what got you started when your kids and like
It was.
yeah, yeah.
It was. I wanted to do it, and then I then wanted to do it for them. I suppose it sounds really cheesy, but I wanted to kind of show them that hard work does pay off. And
Yeah.
I knew that YouTube was a long game. I knew it wasn't just a
Oh, it's,
fast blow up like a
yeah.
TikTok or and so I kind of wanted to show them, you know what, I can do this, and it may take me years, and but I can. So yeah, it's kind of nice. And now my boys, I've got a 19-year-old and 16, and they use it as what they call a flex sometimes
Oh.
now. If they're meeting girls or something, they'll be like, "Oh, I used you as a flex, mum." I'll say, "What? What?" Oh, I said, "My mum's a YouTuber. She's got over 200,000 subs. I'm using it as a flex now." So, which I think is hilarious.
That's so funny. That's funny. Oh, that's cool. And last question is, what is your number one piece of advice you would tell somebody who is watching this and wants to start a YouTube channel? They're brand new.
Oh, look, I just think if a 56-year-old single mum who's based down here in New Zealand can do it, you can do it. Anyone can actually do it. I think it does require time and commitment, unlike any other social media channel. And I know people have probably heard that before, and I suppose I'm trying to prove that to myself with my second channel, but I know that it will work. It will just take time, but it will work. So if you're committed and you're willing to put in the work, it will happen.
Yeah.
Build it and they will come.
Yes. I think that's what's amazing about YouTube too, is just that it's the sky's the limit for so many people that maybe would never have had this kind of opportunity in the past to have such a platform, for
Absolutely.
from all over the world, and to just literally do it from the comfort of your own home and to reach thousands or millions of people. It's such a phenomenon. And that's what got me interested in the first place. Is like, wow, this is this is truly amazing for the people that understand the opportunity and potential that YouTube has. So,
Oh, I could not agree more. And I
mhm,
just wish that I had realized that when I first started my channel, well over 10 years, 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was.
mhm.
I wish that I knew the power and the potential and had harnessed it and gone all in when I started. So, but yeah, it is phenomenal.
Better
And I've
late
got
than
to say too, oh, exactly.
never.
Exactly. I think too, with my audience being predominantly in the US, I am so blown away with the positivity from my US followers. It is, and even when I was there in the States over Christmas, there's just such a positivity and an upbeat. I love the fact that Americans celebrate others' success, and yeah, and that comes through. I can see that regularly in my comments and the positivity. I do get some negative stuff, but it's
Sure.
not very often.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. Well, Leonie, thank you so much for coming on to the show and sharing a little bit about your journey and kind of what your struggles are and all that good stuff. So, for people that are listening and watching are not familiar with your channel, where can they find you?
I'm just the Style Insider. The Style Insider on YouTube, the Style Insider on Facebook and Instagram. I am on TikTok, but don't bother following me there.
I know it's like, oh, that TikTok, but
Yeah, I know, right? I
people
know.
either
But thank you
love it
so
or
much,
they hate
Erika.
it. I don't know.
I have watched and loved your podcast for a long time, so I felt,
Thank you.
yeah, very privileged to be invited to come along and chat with you today. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so well. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you. I'm a huge fan. Thanks so much.
Oh, bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.